Hey yo, welcome to another episode of Off the Beaten Path, your new favorite podcast. And today we have the Undertaking. How's it going, Austin?
It's good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys asking us to be on this thing, and I'm stoked to talk music and whatever else comes up.
Most definitely, man. We appreciate you for coming on. And what give us a little rundown on who the Undertaking is.
Yeah, man, we call ourselves a chaotic rock band with a can-do attitude. So we're rock and roll, but have some, metalcore, hardcore roots, and we kind of jump around and go crazy on stage. We always say we have a can-do attitude because we were like the ultimate DIY band and used to film our own music videos, record our own songs, like all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what's gotten us to this point. So yeah, chaotic rock band with a can-do attitude, and we're from San Diego, California.
San Diego, yes sir, yes sir. And give us so take us back to I guess the beginning of how y'all actually formed and got started.
It's a wild story, man. I mean, we're a five-piece band, so our drummer Brent and our guitarist Keith, who, if you see photos of us, he's the one without the shirt and all the tattoos and stuff, running around in like white Levi pants, because he's like the only guy who can pull that off in our band. Nobody wants to see anybody else with their shirts off. But the three of us have been playing music together since like junior high school, and it's just been a long road of being in garage bands back in junior high, taking a break in high school, starting up another band in high school, taking a break, starting up another band in college. Our drummer went to Grand Rapids, Michigan, school in Grand Rapids, and Keith and I stayed here in San Diego. We all kind of stayed in contact. And then after college, we ended up getting careers and starting families and doing all that stuff. And then 3 years ago, so we just celebrated our 3-year kind of birthday anniversary. Some text started to go around of like, hey, can we do this again? Like we have our jobs, we have families, whatever, but like we were all kind of missing that live music portion in our life. And it kind of just started with some texts of like saying, hey, we should play some music together. And then it took us just saying, okay, on July 30th or whatever the day was, on a Monday night, let's meet up here and see what we got. And then, yeah, within a couple weeks, we were in the studio recording some demos, because at that point you're like, okay, we're a band now. How do we get shows? And now with how easy it is to record, it's like, okay, people need to hear what we sound like in order to get shows. And so it just kind of snowballed into this process of us like learning how to record on our own. We went to a friend's studio to record like a 5-song demo that we put out. And then just kind of built on that, got a bunch of local shows. And then, yeah, COVID hit after we had been playing a bit. So we've only played shows in 2019. So we're like a very kind of green band. And COVID hit, we take a break. We I say accidentally, we kind of like stumbled into signing with Solid State. And now after releasing Funeral Psalms and kind of the trajectory that we're on, we're just like itching to play shows. So that's kind of where we're at right now. That's
Right.
the Cliff Notes version of it.
And that 5 song demo, that was a Scavengers, correct?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was Scavengers. We got our buddy Dave Quiggle. So if you're familiar with like Face Down Records and stuff, he's a tattoo artist up in Temecula, California, who we're buddies with. He does a lot of album artwork on a bunch of hardcore albums and stuff. So we hit him up, and he like did us a huge favor by designing that album artwork, and we're proud of that. We're not as proud of it now in hindsight, because we're like, oh, it could have sounded better, all that kind of stuff.
Hindsight's always 2020. Yeah,
I know.
I hate it, man. And how did y'all get into talkings with Solid State, and why was it? How did you know that they were the right fit for you guys?
Yeah, well, it's a dream come true, just straight up signing to Solid State, because we grew up with the old Face Down, Solid State, Epitaph, Ferret Records, like all those bands in like the early 2000s were like our bread and butter. So early Under Oath, Norma Jean, The Chariot, He Is Legend, like all those bands were a huge influence on us. And so the joke would always be like, well, eventually we'll sign to Solid State or Face Down. And then we are managed by Joey Bradford from The Used, and we were about to put out one of our singles called Who's Afraid of 11 Wolves. And we had gotten some offers for distribution, And right before we were about to move forward with this company, Joey's like, stop, don't do that. Let's just float this out there to some labels. He gets on the phone with Solid State, and then 24 hours later, I'm on the phone with the A&R guy there, Adam, and we have this like amazing conversation. And I'm not even kidding. When halfway through the conversation, I'm like trying to sell the band and tell him like the history and all the stuff. And I'm like, hey, do you want me to like keep going, or what do you want from me? And he's like, I'm so sorry. I should have like let you know, like we fully intend to sign you. And I mean, like my jaw drops, and it's like, okay, what the frick? Like we like, what is happening right now? And then like a couple weeks later, we sign the contract. And then a couple weeks later after that, we jump into the studio at Joey's place here in Vista in San Diego. And we record that album a year ago this month, August 2020.
Yeah, man. And I know what you're talking about, because, you know, Bobby and I, we were in bands when we were teenagers, and that's what you always wanted, was to get onto one of these big labels. And for a lot of us, it didn't happen. So to actually grow up and years later, that label that you looked up to, the artists on that label that you looked up to, it's like, whoa, I'm label mates with these people now.
Just even to have our name on the list of bands, like forever, if we never put out any more music, we will, for this point in time on, be a band that released an album on Solid State. And that's something that does not get lost on us. And so to have our name next to, like I said, Under Oath, Norma Jean, any of those bands, even the guys that are on the label now, Fit for a King, Devil Wears Prada, I mean, there's some really cool stuff happening. And for us to be like on it, like, are you guys familiar with the imposter syndrome? Like there's like no reason like we should be here. For sure, and every single day as a band, we wake up with this like identity crisis of like, we have no idea what we're doing. We don't know how we got here. But after that, you kind of just try to make the best decisions you can and move forward.
That's awesome. Yeah. That and that definitely happens, you know, with imposter syndrome. And I mean, but that's so amazing that you actually wake up with that, you know, every day of, wait a minute, this is reality. Like, I don't know why, but this is really happening.
Yeah, man. Like we put out this video of us recording. We put it together of us recording in the studio, and it's kind of just like DIY, like cell phone and GoPro footage and stuff. And I send it over to the guys at Solid State, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And then the next day, it's like on their Instagram account, and you're like, "That's us!" Like this. What? Right. Wait, what? You guys posted like the wrong video. It can't be us.
Right.
Right. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Seriously, and I don't mean to like be pandering or dismissive of what we've done, but also in a prideful, like in a non-prideful way. Like we're just enjoying the ride and having a ton of fun doing this.
Yeah, y'all's first release, man, Funeral Psalms brings tons of energy. Like, I love that chaotic feel that has. Y'all pay homage to like some of the bands you mentioned earlier that have kind of the rockabilly, like southern rock stuff that they did 10 years ago. Really good stuff.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for checking it out.
Yeah, no. What was y'all's process going into it? Did y'all have a clear direction, or did you just kind of let songs flesh out once you got to the studio?
We overanalyze and overthink every single decision that we make. So I wish I could tell you that this was like a very like go with the flow, and like we were all in this like vibe of writing together. But we have this folder, like Google Drive thing, that is full of just songs and demos. So when we were trying to put out that single, Who's Afraid of the 11 Wolves, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. So we were actually intending to release that song and then follow that up with like an EP. And so we were in the process of writing and had a bunch of demos that were kind of getting hashed out. And then all of a sudden we get signed. So we had to like go into like hyper mode and obviously like write 15 songs, 11 of them make it onto the album. But it was kind of for us just this like crazy process of having these demos and then fleshing the demos out, going into the studio and having to perform them. And that's when the flow and the vibe started to come, when we were all five in the room with Joey as our manager and producer, kind of just throwing ideas off the wall. But because we had like the skeletons of all the songs already done, that was a less daunting process and really fun, because we were just able to say, okay, this is what we're kind of shooting for with these 11 songs, and then kind of allow some flexibility in there to where we weren't like ever strictly we weren't ever strictly committed to a specific idea or a specific style. And that's, I think, one of the strengths of Funeral Psalms is that there's like a lot of different things that we're able to do on that album within, right. But at the same time, still staying within the same ballpark, you know?
Right. And y'all, at least with Funeral Psalms, it's it has like that live feeling.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
How did y'all go about that? You know, with the producer and engineering, you guys, like, how did you go about, like, hey, let's make this sound like it's a live show?
You know, what's funny about that is there's some people out there online who have complained about how underproduced our album sounds, but that's in context to the metalcore genre right now that is just like super produced, and everything is absolutely perfect, and every single note that you hear on the album has been tuned to the nth degree. And I want to be very clear that I have no knock on that, because that's an amazing thing. That's just not who we are. And so vocally, there's going to be a lot of rawness to it. And even our sound with guitars, everything, drums, guitars, bass, everything you hear on the album was played by us, which is something we take a lot of pride in a fun way, because a lot of people program drums and stuff, and Brent actually was in the studio playing those songs. And to a certain extent, we kind of wish that the guitars were like a little bit messier than they are. So we're always kind of pushing. Are you guys familiar with like the Chariots' first album, how they recorded it live and there's like a ton of mess ups and stuff? I never want to take it that extreme, but there's something really cool to what they accomplished as a moment of time on that album. And so there's like we're always trying to kind of push ourselves to make sure there's like a little bit of there's not a polish on our sound.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully that answered the question. But we're just trying to kind of make a messy, raw thing that you listen to our songs and then you go see us live and it's still kind of the same thing, which is fun. It's a challenge for us.
Right. And how are y'all's live shows? Because, you know, like you mentioned the Chariot, you know, they were super chaotic on stage. So is it like, do you care about mess ups, or is it just like be yourself? If you mess up, keep going. Who cares?
I hate that question, by the way, because this is why. Like I said before, we overanalyze everything. And so in the moment, there's like a lot of spontaneous action that happens, movement, we're jumping around, we're off the stage, we're crawling, climbing, whatever we can kind of get our hands on. But then we watch these videos afterwards and we're like picking them apart and saying like, oh, we screwed up this part, we messed up here, oh, the guitar was out of tune. And so then we like take that back to practice, and it's like, okay, we got to build in this opportunity in between these two songs to make sure we have time to tune. Also, don't forget, if your guitar gets hit out of tune during a song because somebody ran into you, like, don't hesitate to just stop playing and tune real quick. And so I wish we could embody the Chariot where like literally nobody cared and Wolf is just throwing his bass around, throwing it to Josh, like they're just like going crazy. I don't think that we're there yet, and we'd love to. Not ever. I don't want to push. The Chariot was its own thing, but that's kind of the vibe we're going for. Is like old Norma Jean or old Chariot. That there's a fun, energetic vibe to our show, and that's why we cannot wait to get out of San Diego and start touring and getting on the road, because we just want to show people what we have. And I think that there's something to be said about that. Is there's an energy that we bring on stage, and hopefully people pick that up and have some fun with it when we're in a live setting.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And the sound that y'all developed on the album is going to be a good preview for people, their imaginations of what to expect.
Sure. Yeah. And well, that's the thing too. Go check out our music videos. Like all the movement you see in those videos is what we do live. And I'm not knocking anybody. Everybody has their own thing, but you watch these bands that go crazy in their music videos, but then you see them live and they don't move. And you're like, oh man, I was sold something that you can't actually do. And so we're actually like, you know, cautious to not overdo our music videos, but also play within our strengths. So a lot of what we do in those videos, or what you see, is like something that we can actually perform on stage, which is really fun.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, knocking there or not knocking there, that's the two things that annoy me too, is what you just mentioned, and also something you kind of mentioned before is like programming drums or doing this or doing that. And it's like, if you program drums and the drummer can play everything, that's fine. But if he can't play everything or she can't play everything, and then you go see them live, it's like, whoa, I was, like you said, I was sold a false reality.
Yeah, or backing tracks on like a crazy guitar riff or something. Like again, I'll beat a dead horse on that. Yeah, everybody can do whatever they want, but that's just not what we're going to bring to it, because we have a lot of fun just playing our stuff and making sure that what we play and what we record is something that we can actually perform. And we've actually found ourselves in that position because some of the songs that we put on funeral songs, I don't know if we can perform as well live, and that's probably why you're not going to see a song like Take Me Down the River that has like 10 different harmonies and vocal parts on the chorus. We bring that to a live setting and it kind of falls flat because it's me and Johnny singing it, and there's not the energy that you feel when you listen to it on the record. You want to make sure that the energy is there when we're playing it live too.
Right. And what was the idea for that video? Because I've never seen a video done like that.
Take Me Down the River?
Yeah, that's the one where
I love it.
Yeah, so it's like, you got the kids, but then I was like, this is a really long video. And then I kept watching. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, what was the idea for that?
We sent the 8-minute video to Solid State and they put it out, and we were so stoked because basically the song just plays twice. So we thought for sure they'd cut it in half and they like let it run, which is so fun because they just kind of let us do whatever we want. And I will like praise Solid State for their hands-off approach to allowing us to create and be us, which is so cool. So how if you guys don't mind me asking, I'm 34. Are you guys, how old are you?
Yeah, 34. I'll be 35.
Okay, so you guys grew up on like VHS and like you'd have to like record stuff. So we got these kids that I know through church, and they came in. They've like never seen a VHS. They've never held like a cassette tape. Like they did not understand that technology.
Wow.
And so basically for us, the idea behind that video was like, the two of you dudes in summertime, you like went and saw this band that you liked, so you're just like putting their music video on a VHS tape and like handing it out to your friends. And so that was the whole idea, is that they were just like ripping our VHS and like getting it out like illegally or whatever to their friends, but thought it would be fun to throw like the random clips of us playing on the TV, and then for us to be able to like pull it off was fun. And then we released the song in summer, so there's a little bit of that like endless summer type of vibe where you and your brother or you and your friends are just like hanging out in the garage listening to music and just kind of like dicking around with each other. And so yeah, our buddy Adam here in San Diego helped us put that video together, and we were really happy with how it came out.
Yeah, man, the nostalgia of it, I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. Like I love stuff that brings me back to my childhood,
Yeah, and you look in the background, like there's like Stephen King books and Disney VHS. You got like Mask of Phantasm, the Batman animated movie, Toy Story, like a bunch of stuff that we threw in there.
I like those little what do they call Easter eggs, little things off in the corner. It's like, oh, I noticed that.
Yep, cool. I'm stoked that you noticed. We had fun kind of decorating. That's Johnny's garage, our guitarist's garage, that we'll stream video games out of there, and we realized that was like the perfect location for it.
Nice.
It's crazy how fast technology moves, that we were going to Blockbuster 20 years ago to get VHSs to rent, and then had to rewind it and take it back. And there's people walking around live that have no idea what Blockbuster is other than documentaries and never touch a VHS.
No, you'd have to go on like Friday and make sure you got there in time to get like the movie that you wanted. And if it was sold out, you'd have to like go back a couple days later, and you'd like peruse the sections, and like just purely based on like the artwork on the VHS, you'd pick up a movie. And now people just like go on Netflix, and they don't like a movie, they just change it to the next one. And then if they don't like what's on Netflix, they go to HBO Max. Like everything's like right there at our fingertips now.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And what you just said was the artwork. One thing I miss about music and movies is the artwork. Because like on Netflix, you have a random scene that serves as a thumbnail, and it rotates, so like it's not even the same all the time.
No.
Because the artwork's part of the experience.
Yeah, that was a cool thing. That was a cool thing for us. We art directed that with Adam Scatula, our A&R director at Solid State. So he helped us get connected to a guy named Trey Hales, who does all the artwork for a band called Counterparts.
Yeah.
He like crushed it with the branding of their international no sign. And so he got us connected with Trey, and Trey just like knocked it out of the park. And so if you look, so you're going to find out just in talking to me, like Easter eggs and pop culture stuff is like littered throughout our music, but our album cover is a mix of Midsommar, The Witch, and the movie Mother. And so those 3 horror films are kind of like the inspiration behind the artwork that Trey got for us. It's pretty cool. We're stoked on it.
Nice. And yeah, I love artwork because I mean, one of my, favorite stories of getting an album is, I don't remember what year it was, but probably around like 2005, and walking to Hot Topic. I didn't know what I wanted to buy, but I'm looking through the CDs, and I see this awesome album artwork, and it's this band Vanna. Never heard of them before. Get home, and it became one of my favorite CDs, but I literally bought it not knowing anything about the band, but just because of artwork. But it's kind of hard to do that these days.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just the fact that physical media is kind of not gone, because we printed vinyl and we got CDs, but it's the same thing with Netflix and the thumbnail. Like, you're basically trying to get people to listen to your music based on what they see on Spotify or iTunes.
Right.
And there's not that tangible piece of media that you can open up and take the booklet out, and there's like additional photography and lyrics and stuff. And I think that's kind of missed nowadays.
Yeah, my car.
But then we just sound like old guys complaining about the kids these days.
And I was about to keep it going because I was about to say my car is filled with CDs. Like
I know, and you reach under your car seat and you're like, oh, what CD am I gonna find? And you're like, oh, I haven't listened to this in forever.
Pop it in.
And track 5 is all scratched up and it skips, and that's the best one on the album. And you're like,
no, I swear to you, my CD player in my car doesn't work because I think there's a Norma Jean CD stuck in the CD player. It won't come out, but like you can listen to it. It's Redeemer, and so you can press play and it like works and stuff. You just can't get it out.
Man, had that before.
That's a good one to have stuck in there too.
Yeah.
God, not bad. It could be worse.
Right.
It could be a lot worse.
Yes. And who did the lyric videos?
Solid State, dude. They crushed it with that. Yeah, we I was going to say allowed, but we didn't allow anything. We let them run with it, and they just knocked it out of the park. The whole package, the visual package that you see between the artwork, the vinyl record, the variants that you see of the artwork, the lyric videos, all that kind of stuff, like that was all Solid State, and they just hit it out of the park with the vibe. We did the music videos. So the music videos we did for No Friends, Everything Worked Out Just Fine, and Take Me Down the River, we handled those, but everything else you see is from Solid State, and they just did an amazing job on that.
Right.
Moving through like the forest and stuff. So sick.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did a solid job. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So when you get down to write, like where do you draw inspiration from most times?
Sure. I find inspiration everywhere at all times, which is hard because sometimes you can't turn it off. But I have like a note on my phone that I'm watching a movie and there's a line or a scene that like makes me think of something. I'll pause the movie and like jot it down. Did you guys see, or do you know the movie The Green Knight just came out in theaters?
Mm-mm.
So there's a movie called The Green Knight, and it just came out, and I was in the theater, and there's a line that he says, "Perhaps you think I'm something that I'm not." And in the movie, he says, "Perhaps you think I'm something that I'm not." And the whole time, because I didn't want to take my phone out in the theater, I'm like, I got to remember that line. And so the second we get out of the theater, I jot it down. And so that's probably like a song title on another album. Perhaps you think I'm something that I'm not. And it's just like a cool idea of like imposter syndrome. There's like a lot of things you can find inspiration from that. And so then for me, what I do is I'll find like a line or a theme or something to kind of work on. And then you just expand upon that. And so there's a lot of stream of conscious involved in just writing, and you kind of let your mind go wherever it needs to go. And then as soon as we kind of get a demo that we specifically want to work on in a moment, I'll pick a specific line, specific theme, and then build in cadences and rhymes and stuff. But for me, I find inspiration in having a theme and like some strong lyrical content that I can kind of build off of. And it's kind of fun because then you can allow yourself to go down different paths. And then next thing you know, you have a couple paragraphs written. Half that stuff doesn't even work for a song. So you just copy and cut it out of that note and you put it in another note. So there's so many notes on my iPhone of just random lyric ideas. And it's fun because then you can kind of scroll through, and then what inspired me in the moment then might actually serve like a different connotation later when I'm trying to find inspiration in a different song. And so really try to not limit myself to writing at specific times, or like limiting myself to saying like, okay, I have to write within this box or whatever. And I think it's fun to kind of allow yourself to just kind of go wherever you go. And that's super, super freaking frustrating sometimes, because even stylistically, our guitarists, they're trying to write something and they're like, what about this? Was this to this? Was this to whatever? And we're always like, no, man, just any idea is good. Because then you don't know what idea is going to then spur on somebody else to create something. And so we're actually working on some songs right now. And one of them, our guitarist listened to this riff that Johnny listened to this riff that Keith sent. And then because of the riff that Keith sent, Johnny then wrote a whole different song, because that then like clicked in his mind, like, oh, I want to do something like that. And I don't know, inspiration is just like such a fascinating thing, because sometimes it's just not there. And sometimes it's like overload.
And one thing that carries from y'all's beginning even to funeral psalms is Scavengers. Is it the same meaning to you though that was back in 2018, or has it morphed into something different?
Sure, that's fun. We're always trying to kind of link everything together to a certain extent. And so Scavengers for us, those songs were picked off the old bone pile. We like scavenged those songs that we had written when we were younger, because we needed something to write. And so it was like, okay, we can either start from scratch, or we can like take some of these ideas. So literally the album Scavengers was songs that we scavenged from our path to like make them something more. But now we're kind of, I don't know. Like, I think we're always trying to like scavenge. I could go a lot of different ways with that, where you're always like kind of looking into the past to like pick things up and move them forward. We got a review from one of a media outlet when Scavengers came out, and it said like, all my friends are scavengers. So then that actually is where that line came from on No Friends. And Every Time I Die does a cool thing, and the Chariot's done it a couple times where they'll like reference previous album titles on their other songs. And I thought it was a fun way to kind of bring that back and do that, even like working in funeral psalms into another lyric later on. I feel like that allows some cohesiveness to where we're still kind of playing with the same words, and you listen to a song and you're like, oh, I recognize that theme from a previous thing, and you go back and listen to that song, and maybe there's something new that you take out of that because you've listened to the newer stuff. So the idea is always evolving.
Right.
Yeah, that line comes from No Friends, which is a brutal song stylistically and vocally. Yeah. In those lyrics, are you singing from a place of personal experience, or is it more of a character that you're describing?
I try to balance the two. And if I'm talking to somebody I know, it's obviously a character because I'm talking about that person probably. or if I'm talking to random people, it's me. But it doesn't really matter because it's a little bit of a mix of both, where when I'm finding inspiration, in order for me to like feel those emotions and like really put my all into a song, I have to put it in my personal experience or something that I've done or experienced in my life, because then there's like real emotion to that. And so No Friends is a little bit of a character because that song is not specifically referenced to one person, but as in mid-30s, you know it's freaking hard to have good friends.
Yeah.
Because you suck and they suck. And at some point you just acknowledge like, hey, we're doing our best. And like, I'm going to drop the ball and I'm going to forget to text you back or call you back, or I'm going to hurt your feelings somehow and you're going to get pissed off at me. Like there's this cyclical thing. And so that one specifically comes just from like living 34 years and having friends come in and out of your life and hurting and stuff. And it's also kind of fun just to be like, dude, I suck. And I think some people were off put, by that song because I'm like, I'm selfish, I'm rude, conceited, I'm vain. And somebody was like, oh, he's like saying that's a good thing about himself. And I'm like, no, you completely missed you missed that song, because I'm saying those are all things that I am, and I'm not proud of that.
Yeah.
But there's also some playfulness in it too, because I think when you can poke at yourself a little bit, there's some vulnerability there. I don't know, the bridge too, always lower your expectations. I'll let you down. Like we all go through life with these high expectations of other people, and you're like, oh frick, that person like let me down again. So I don't know. Sometimes I'm just saying what we're thinking. We just can't say it.
Yeah, I've been telling people that about myself for years. If you put me on a pedestal, bro, I am going to fall.
Yeah.
Hard and fast. So don't do that.
Yeah, and that's probably one of my favorite songs on the album, just because it does speak to me so much, because like in my early to mid 20s, I went through a phase where it's like I cut a lot of people off because I realized y'all are draining my energy, but you're not feeding anything back into me. And then as I got older, it's like I realized I took what I learned and was maybe overly protective of my energy. So it was like I would not let people in as easy, and that's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing if you go too deep into it. And it made me realize also it's like, damn, I am selfish, and
that's it, dude. That's the song. That all of that right there. That's what that song's about. Exactly. I love you. You just said it way better than I can.
and how do you stay, or maybe how do you stay on your toes, or who do you go to keep you on your toes so you can always keep looking into yourself and being real with yourself so you're able to evolve as a human?
I think it's funny you say like, who do you go to? I think one of the first steps is being aware of how you're wired and like what you need to create margin in your life, or just becoming self-aware. Because I think there's a lot of people aren't really aware that they're a certain way. And then that's when they're like always pointing the fingers at other people, like, oh, you hurt my feelings or whatever. But then you're not really internalizing and processing like, oh, it's because I responded this way, or I got defensive in this way. And so I think like having that self-awareness to evaluate yourself helps. But then, yeah, I got a core group of friends. I mean, like the band dudes are like some of my best buds, and we can have long conversations about stuff like that. My wife is one of the smartest, best people that I know. And like, we're always talking to each other about how, like, what can we do better? Where are my shortcomings? What am I missing? One of the things that I thrive on is expectations unsaid are unmet. And so it's one of those things where like, if you expect me to do something, but you actually haven't like expressed that and communicated to that, I'm not freaking Professor Xavier, and I can't read your mind. And so then like, I'm always like, okay, what am I doing here that I'm not seeing that hurts your feelings or whatever? And so specifically with my wife and our relationship, like we're always trying to kind of push ourselves to make sure we're properly processing how we're feeling and where we're at, and not be afraid to ask for what you need in a moment of like, hey, I need some space here. Like, can I go to the gym or work out or go to a movie or whatever? Or my wife does yoga, goes to counseling, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. That's a deep question, but it's important because I don't think a lot of people really know how to process their emotions.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point of like collective awareness where we're starting to talk about this stuff a little bit more openly, so it's removing some of the stigma from it. One thing that's interesting,
Bobby, you might want to raise your mic a little bit.
Oh, am I a little bit quiet?
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I just didn't want it in my face. I didn't want to be the guy from
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement.
Yeah.
But getting to a point where we're discussing it a little bit more, and we have a lot of artists on here that have talked about their mental health and opened up. Nate and I have shared stuff. But the evolution that we're in now is that we're discussing it and sharing it. So, hey, we don't feel alone. We're all in this together. Let's have a big group hug. But when do you think we're going to get to the point where we're starting to share coping mechanisms collectively where, hey, this is what helped me, and here's how I got through this, and here's how I overcame this mental health hurdle?
I think we're starting to get there now. I don't know, man. Like, so part of our journey, and you'll hear a lot of the topics on there. Like, mental health is very, very important to me and my wife, and our journey. We've walked through some insane seasons of postpartum depression, and just like walked through some dark seasons. And my wife was actually had the chance to hop on a podcast where she got to talk about postpartum. And one of the coolest things that came out of that is like, yeah, we went through hell in that season, but because of that experience, she's able to share what she learned and how to cope with that and process that. And through that, there's been so many rad conversations that my wife has had with other women of saying like, oh, I went through a season like that. And then being able to share our tool belt. So we always kind of talk about having like a tool belt ready. And if you get into a season of mental health, or you're in a pit of depression, to like know what tools you need for certain seasons, if it's medication, if it's counselors, if it's like psychiatric help, like different stuff like that. Or even if it's just like, oh, I just need like a weekend away from our kids, or a couple of days away from work, whatever that looks like, you kind of then have your like tackle box or your tool belt ready to pull out what you need in that specific instance. And I think it's like the next step in the evolution of that. Because like you're saying, we're starting as a culture to remove the stigma of mental health, but then like just talking about it isn't super helpful. Like you actually need those like next steps, but that's also a very individual experience too, because what helped you might not help me, but let's try it out.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Try this. This helped me. I think that's really cool.
And it's like I was having a problem with alcohol or whatever, and my friends, or he's my friend, he's older, he's like 56 or 57, but he came to me and was like, hey, my son's going through problems with alcohol, do you mind reaching out to him? And I told him straight up, I'm like, bro, I'm still drinking every night. Like, who am I to tell this man, hey, try this or do this, and I'm still drinking? So to, put the point on it is, I think everyone that's been through something and has gotten past it and has healed and they're able to talk about it, I think it's almost a responsibility to that person to maybe not go and speak at a school or something, because that may not be them, but if someone comes into their lives and asks a question, like, don't shun that person away. Like, hey, this is what happened. This is what helped me. I don't know if it's going to help you, but maybe you can try something similar. So I just think it's a responsibility of anyone that's been through something and gotten through it successfully.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge part of it, is that as soon as you kind of put something out there into the world that like removes the weight of it or the shame of it, as soon as you start talking about something, I feel like you like then like it like loses its power. Because at first you're like, oh, I'm like, if it's alcoholism or whatever it is, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna hold this tight because I can do this on my own. And then as soon as you're like, hey, like, here you go, guys, I'm gonna talk about this and let it go, like there's this weight that's taken off of your shoulders. And then there's power in that, because you're like, oh, now that it doesn't have this weight, it's not crushing me, I can kind of move forward through that and then get better. And then, dude, like that, like you just said, then somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, I need some help with this. And you're like, yeah, like, I don't know if I can help, but let's talk about it and process, right, and let's be in this together. There's something cool about that.
Yeah, because we've all, like, whatever it is that you're going through, we've all, if you're going through that, you've had the different steps of failing, so it's like someone that's never drank a sip of alcohol isn't going to understand how it is to sit at home and be like, all right, I just want to make it through this one day without drinking. They're not going to understand it. But even if you are still going through it like I was at the time, it's like I still was like, hey, what's going on? Like, what is it? When do you get tempted? Blah, blah, blah. We talked about it or whatever. But yeah, I definitely think we are getting closer to that communication, and it's not a stigma anymore. And I think we're on the right track.
I'm fired up about that conversation because I think it's really important. And I think you know, my approach to the lyrics and stuff too, there's a lot of talk about self-help and mental health and processing depression and all that kind of stuff. And I think that there's some people that was like a little bit too raw and too much, where they kind of want their like hardcore to just be like breakdowns and like mean stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm actually like using this as therapy. So it's really important to us.
And that's one thing I've always loved about the scene, is that it's bringing your whole heart, soul, and energy to it. Regardless of what it is that you stand for, what message you want to put out. It's, hey, this is DIY. This is who I am, and this is how I'm going to package it up for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you know, I was talking to Bobby. I was like, Bobby, I think we're doing something wrong with the podcast, because we only get thumbs up. You know, we haven't got any dislikes, no negative comments. And, you know, he was, you know, I said it jokingly, but he was like, yeah, I mean, we don't have that many views yet, so it's not, the ratio is not going to add up now, you know. But with you guys, you know, maybe getting, I don't know if you've had any articles that you're like, whoa, why'd you write this? But with negative comments, do you guys look at comments? Or if you do look at them, do you actually, oh man, they got a point?
I know a lot of people say that you like shouldn't look at the comment sections and stuff, but we like love it. We freaking just dive in, and it's the worst because people suck. Like, it's so easy for somebody on YouTube to be like, oh, these guys are trash. And you're like, oh, you have no idea how much work we put into this. And like how hard it was for us to say this thing and like have the confidence to put this out. But honestly, I think at some point as creatives, as people that are sensitive to our art, as podcasters, all that kind of stuff, you're eventually going to get more comfortable and be like, okay, like I can allow that to bounce off, but we're never going to put too much weight to it. Because we're always just going to kind of go out and do our thing. Like, nobody's comments going to affect what we write or how we write. But then we kind of just know, like, okay, like this wasn't for that person, and that's okay. We had pretty good reviews. There was like one like mediocre review where somebody wrote that like the lyricist me like didn't really know what he was talking about, and I was like, well, you just didn't like it, so yeah. It's fine. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And who does?
Exactly. And the blog shouldn't have had the person that didn't like the album write the article. Let's just say it that way.
Right. Yeah, it's a fishy little business that's out there.
It's all good. Yeah. But like you guys said, sorry, a little cap on that is like the negatives, the people talking about it and stuff. That means people are talking about it, and that's pretty cool. So that's the takeaway for us: is good reviews, bad reviews, people are talking about it, and that's cool.
Exactly, because you can look at it in the negative way of, man, like you took your time to leave a comment on something that you didn't like. Why would you do that? But look at it the positive. Hey, you actually cared enough to leave a comment, so it affected you some way.
Yeah, you listen to it. And for us too, like, it's not going to deter us from creating and writing. I mean, for us in our 30s, this is like a dream come true and a creative outlet, and something that we're having so much fun doing. That's the whole can-do attitude thing I was talking about before. Like, the reason we're doing this is to play music and have fun. Like, and if there's people that come along and enjoy the ride with us, like, that's just super dope. And let's keep it going and have some fun, play some live music, record some more albums, and hopefully some people listen to it and enjoy it. And that's like best case scenario. And if you don't, there's like a million other bands out there to check out.
Exactly. And with Plague, what was the idea, or I guess the idea, behind the lyrics? Like, where did that come from? Because that's something I've never thought about. Like, people ask you, what superpower would you want to have? No one ever says God,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that song's tricky because a lot of people asked if that was written like about the pandemic, and really it has nothing to do with COVID or anything. But I think it came from me of a standpoint of looking and saying, like, if I was God, I would look down on creation and I would just destroy creation, because we're just all garbage. Yes. And processing that and kind of working through that, like, God has given us this opportunity to live and be part of this and try to do the best we can. Yeah, that's kind of it. There's not too much to that. But if you're a Christian, if you have faith and stuff, there's a fear of God that kind of puts you in line sometimes. And I think that some people don't understand the power that could hold, and not to like believe in God or be a Christian because you're afraid, but like if you do believe in God, he's the creator of the universe and can like do whatever he wants. And he allows us to like walk on this earth and go to the beach and watch cool movies and listen to music and stuff.
Yeah, I love the concept of that song, you know, just because it's like you said, like we don't deserve this mercy or grace or whatever it is, but man, you know, if I was you, I would destroy it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're keeping us alive and you keep giving us blessings every day, so appreciate it. And I got one more question. So on y'all's Instagram, you posted favorite 90s Saturday morning cartoon.
Let's
so
go.
It doesn't have to
yeah.
be a Saturday morning cartoon, but favorite cartoon from the 90s.
Me?
Yeah.
I thought I had it in here. Something. Batman the Animated Series is just hands down like the best cartoon like almost ever created. It's so dope. But I was also a big fan of the X-Men series, and I loved Animaniacs. They were funny.
Nice. Well, also favorite video game from the 90s.
I adore Super Mario, like the first one that came out for Super Nintendo, so Super Mario World. Right. That's like one of the best games. If Johnny was here, he has a full Zelda sleeve, so he would say Majora's Mask or one of the games in the Zelda series. But yeah, I'm a big Mario guy. I play Mario Odyssey and stuff with my kids and Super Smash, and we love Mario in our house.
And one thing I like about y'all's... Oh, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say I suck at Super Smash, but I love it.
Oh, I'm terrible, man. Terrible. Yeah, I don't.
Terrible. But in y'all's early videos, when y'all were doing a lot of like DIY stuff and like behind the scenes stuff, video game music crept into that creative process a lot. Do you feel like video game music and stuff from like the 90s cartoons that we just mentioned, do you feel like it creeps its way into y'all's music, or is it just kind of a nostalgia thing for you guys?
It's both. I think we actually allow it to creep into the music, where some people would probably try to keep that separate from the image or the branding that they're like trying to create. But for us, like, I want that because one of the reasons like we do this is I want to go to a show and be like, hey, what movie were you watching? Or dude, what about Fernando Tatis coming back today in the outfield instead of shortstop? Like I'd almost prefer to talk sports, movie, video games than music. And there's like a community that's involved in that too. And so even for me, like I have a Ninja Turtles tattoo. And so on nostalgia, I say cowabunga, and that was like a huge thing for me to get a cowabunga on the album. And so I'm a huge Ninja Turtle guy and adore that comics. And for us, there's a playfulness, especially we're talking about the artwork and the lyrical themes. It's really dark and it's really heavy, and there could be a connotation that we're like very dour and serious people. But the truth is we're just having fun and coming out here, and we want to play music and hang out with people. And we're given this opportunity to get out there and do that. So we don't want to waste it. And so we want to have fun, but we also want to take this seriously. So we're always trying to kind of balance the two of having fun and being chill dudes. But then at the same time, when you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh crap, that's kind of heavy, or whoa, that's something I didn't see coming. So.
Right. And also, are you guys labeled as a Christian band, or are you Christians in the band?
No, we're just a band. I wish I wish that wasn't even like something that no knock on you asking that question.
No,
take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like that becomes such a talking point for a lot of people because it's controversial. And even when we signed to Solid State, I think there were some people that led down the path that we were a Christian band and stuff like that. And then you're fighting, like I say, damn it on a song, but that's because I'm a freaking normal human being and people say, damn it. And like, some people didn't like that. And it's like, it's okay, guys, we're real humans, and let's go out there and not pretend like we're all perfect. I work at a church, Johnny works at a church, so I'm a Christian, but yeah, we don't take that label with us because I don't think we have to. We're just going to go out there and play our music, and then through that, get to know us, and you'll find out kind of what makes us tick.
Yeah, and I definitely I think it's an annoying question. I think it's an intriguing answer, but I was just scrolling down some YouTube comments and it was like, are these guys Christian? Are they a Christian? And it's just like, wow, this is such a talking point when, like you said,
It's
it
a
shouldn't be.
it's a big deal to that crowd, and it makes me bummed because I feel like then they're not allowing themselves to enjoy it, which I don't even, yeah, whoever left the comments, like they said I was a corrupt pastor, because I said damn it, and I like, well, okay, sure, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember when Under Oath came out and said their little piece on it, and it's like the whole world just shut down. It was like, what? You're not a Christian band, or you're cussing in your music now? It's like, guys, chill out. People grow up, people change, people may have different beliefs than they did 10 years ago.
Bobby, you said it earlier. You put them on a pedestal and you're gonna fall. And people, Under Oath is like the perfect example of that. Is people base their faith on a band, or were inspired to believe because of a band, and then when you put your faith in people, you're always gonna be let down.
Mm-hmm. And I get it. It's like if you don't want to listen to the Spite because they're anti-Christian, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't want to listen to that, I understand it. But if you don't want to listen to a band just because you might think they're labeled Christian, and then something happens or they do something or say something in the song, and it's like, oh, I can't listen to them anymore. And it's like you said, like, wait, you're basing your faith off a band? Like, silly.
Yeah. Well, too, a little bit of inside baseball for us too. If you get labeled as a Christian band, there's probably a lot of people that aren't going to listen to you at all.
Exactly.
And I want everybody to listen to us, please. Everybody.
Yeah, because if you do, have the label as a Christian band, then that pigeonholes you to a lot of people that aren't Christians. That's gonna be. I don't want to hear that God talk all the time, and you just lost a lot of people.
Well, even something as simple as calling us like a chaotic rock and roll. Like I didn't say metalcore or hardcore, because already some people are going to be like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that hardcore music. But if I say it's rock and roll, you might click on it. And then at least I got you to like listen to it for a second. People are like, oh, it's God. Oh, he's yelling. I can't understand what he's saying, but you listen to it.
Yep. Hey, you said everything was thought out in Heck yeah, man. Well, hey, you got anything else, Bobby?
Yeah, man. I was gonna say y'all got some really cool shows coming up. A little bit of a West Coast run with Fall Star and Lightworker starting in October. What are y'all expecting from that tour?
We are hoping to create FOMO, and we want to go out and have like the most kick-ass shows we can have with Fall Star and Lightworker, so that people on the East Coast or Midwest are like, we want that show out here.
Yep.
And so hopefully we can go out and just show people what we're able to do live. All three of us have not played in like 18 months, so it's been a while. So for us to be able to kind of dip our toes into the touring world, we're not doing like a 30-day thing or a big run through the country. It's like, all right, let's go out there, do 7 days, see how we can do the best we can. And like I said, then hopefully some stuff, there's dividends that get paid out of that, because people are like, yo, that show looked insane. Mm-hmm. I want you guys to come out here and then start some conversation. But yeah, for us, I mean, at the end of the day too, it's a bucket list thing to hop in a van with our buddies and go tour and play some shows. So hopefully for us, we can rip some gigs and have some fun, just playing some live shows and meet some new people, get out of San Diego and do our thing.
For sure. And will this be the first tour for you guys?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're stoked. We're super stoked. And like I said before, man, we're like a tiny little baby band. Like few people listen to us, and we're hoping to get out there and just create some buzz and get some people to listen to our music and come out to shows.
For sure. You'll also have a really cool show coming up in December with Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. How did y'all land that? So
that show was supposed to happen March of 2020. And like 1 week before COVID shut everything down, that show was supposed to come up. So we have a good connection with one of our venues here in San Diego called Brick by Brick. It's owned by some of the guys in As I Lay Dying, and they do some amazing metal and hardcore shows. So we've gone in with them. We played with Fall of Troy at Brick by Brick, and then we were offered the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus show. Turns out that Dead American is on that, which is Cove from Seosin's new band, and they're managed by Joey Bradford as well. So it's like a little bit of a family show because those guys are our homies. Cove sang on one of our songs, and then Kyle Rosa, the drummer in Dead American, who's also in Atreyu, is a buddy of ours. So yeah, that's going to be a really, really fun show. Yeah, we're stoked for that.
That's another one of my favorite songs. I suck with song names, so I don't remember it, but the one with Cove on it.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yeah, I love that song.
That song goes hard at the end. It's called "And Everything Worked Out Just Fine." It used to be called Knuckle Sandwich. That was the working title, so we still kind of refer to it as Knuckle Sandwich all the time.
Nice.
And man, like, I guess San Diego is such a melting pot of all these great musicians that you just mentioned. How did y'all get linked up with them? Was it through just being raised in the scene together, or did y'all meet them through something else?
Yeah, there's a ton of musicians here in San Diego, and then we live in North County, San Diego, which is San Marcos, Escondido, Vista. So if anybody's familiar with that area, there's a couple of cities over here, and there's some amazing musicians that live here. So we were peripherally connected to Joey Bradford from the Used because of some friends and church and just being around in the same area forever. So at one point he put out on Instagram that he was looking to master some songs. So we actually reached out and we're like, hey man, we know like all the same people. Would you be interested in mastering this song? And that's how that introduction started. And that's how we got to know Joey, worked it into him managing us. And then through that, just all these different connections that pop up. Like he's got this studio in Vista called the Vibatorium, which has become like a little bit of like a mecca for musicians. So the drummer Tanner Wayne from In Flames like records all his drum tutorial stuff in the studio, and it's just like the dopest spot to play music. So yeah, it's cool.
And y'all recorded there. Did y'all stay there for a month or?
No, man, we all live 5 minutes away.
Nice.
Yeah, so
That's so cool.
Every day around 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning, we'd cruise over to the studio and we'd stay till like 8 or 9. Then we'd go home and go back the next day. So yeah, we were there for a full month straight, but because we live like 10, 15, 5 minutes away, like it's just really easy for us to kind of come back and come in and out and stuff. So it was fun to not have this pressure that we got to like record all this stuff in 2-3 weeks because we got to go back home at the end of it. Like I could go over to Joey's like right now. I'm not invited at the moment, but but I can swing by.
Right. Yeah, man. Dang, there was something I was gonna say. I don't remember, but it'll come right when we finish. I'll think.
Yeah. No, dude. Anytime you guys want us on, I'd love to have like Johnny or somebody else pop on here too, and we'll keep chatting. So.
Most definitely. Well. We appreciate you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure speaking with you and getting to dig in your mind a little bit. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. And we're definitely going to try to get out to where you, Georgia or South Carolina?
Both. Yep.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah. We'll get out there one of these days, man. I'd love to meet you guys and play a show out in your area.
Sure, man. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of Off the Beaten Path. Bobby, let these people know what to do.
I hope they stay black.
And please don't be whack.
Hey.
I love it.